Folks, we're going to be looking at a what I like to call a compromised ecosystem here today. And that ecosystem is a wetland that's had the absolute shit kicked out of it by disturbance. And I'm going to get into how we can tell it's a wetland. Here's a hint: it's by the vegetation that's still in this area, what remains of it at least. And we're also going to be talking about some plants that kind of favor a more disturbed habitat that are still native. We're going to hit some invasives just to make sure that you guys are familiar with the IDs on them, so you can recognize them and get rid of them if you ever come across them. But let's kick things off with a nice example of some wetland vegetation that's just in this area that tipped me off that this wasn't just some regular garbage old field, that this was actually once a beautiful wetland complex. But, you know, the first thing that tipped me off to that was this beautiful plant right here. Now, it might not look like much because it's not in bloom and it's not really producing seed pods at the moment, but this is actually a milkweed, a member of the genus Asclepias. In particular, what we're working with right here is Asclepias incarnata. You can distinguish it from the other species of milkweeds by these really strong lancelet leaves, as well as the habitat, you know. Swamp milkweed, you know, you can kind of guess where you're going to be finding this plant with a name like that. Obviously, it's going to be in wetland systems. But that's not the only wetland plant here. There's an abundance of wetland vegetation, or vegetation that favors a wetter hydrologic regime. And it's really sad because I'm pretty sure this area is going to be developed soon. And so, God, I just hope that the people actually delineated this properly. I don't have a lot of faith in that, though, because recent events have caused me to lose faith in really everything. But you know, that's beside the point. Let's talk about the plants, because the plants are what we all care about. This right here is a beauty. This is the wonderful Lobelia syphilitica, named that because they once thought that this plant could actually cure syphilis. Just a side note here, it cannot. But the Lobelia syphilitica is cool because it's got what you call a resupinate corolla. What that means is that the flower is actually upside down. So these two top petals right here, those are actually the lower petals. So the way the lobelia really looks is like that, with 3 upper petals and 2 lower. Another lobelia with a resupinate corolla is the cardinal flower, Lobelia cardinalis. And these plants can actually, this plant right here can actually hybridize with Lobelia cardinalis to form I think it's Lobelia X speciosa or something like that. But let's talk about some invasive junk, because that's abundant in this ecosystem as well. As you can see, this grass that's swamping over everything, that's good old Phalaris arundinacea, the reed canary grass. What we've got an absolute abundance of is this prickly bastard, Cirsium arvensi, the Canada thistle, they call this one. Not quite sure why they call it Canada thistle, as it's not native to Canada, it's native to Eurasia. But there you go with the typical Cirsium flowers there. Nice bracts though, even if it is a disgusting piece of garbage. Who else do we got that I want to talk about in this same stretch? You can notice the abundance of that Lobelia syphilitica, which really clued me in right away that what we were working with are the bare bones of a wetland complex that is currently under siege by both invasive species and probably development as well, because these systems haven't been put through enough, I don't think. Anyways, moving on. We got right here, we got a bulrush, a scirpus. This is a kind of sedge. I believe this is Scirpus hadrianus. Absolutely lovely, that. What we're working with right here appears to be, we got a smooth stem solidago with serrations all the way up. You can see the serrations there on the leaf. They're kind of small, but I believe that this is Solidago gigantea. Guessing that from that smooth stem. Solidago altissima and canadens both got a bit of pubescence on the stem, while this one remains glabrous. Let's move right along and find some more stuff for me to point at that further indicates the wetland nature of this habitat. Like I said before, Asclepias incarnata, Lobelia syphilitica. All right, let's find some more stuff. I walked right over the top of this one, actually. This is another great wetland plant. This is Junkus effusius in the Juncaceae, the rush family. Absolutely lovely. I call this one, what you're going to note, this is kind of unique for the Junkuses, but it flowers in the middle of the culm. The only other Junkus I'm aware of that does that is Junkus balticus, which this is surely not given the habitat. Anyways, let's keep it moving, keep it moving. There's some more Junkus effusius. Say goodbye to that because it's all going to be developed here in a couple months, weeks, I don't know. I don't know what the plan is for this land, but it should be being restored, not more actively destroyed, in my highly unprofessional opinion. Like I've said numerous times, I don't really know what the hell I'm talking about. But I do know a wetland when I see one, thank God. Anyways, Who we've got right here is Bohermia cylindracea, the false nettle. You can tell it's a false nettle because of the way I'm eagerly grabbing it. You know, it's got these nice axillary flowers here. Get a load of the axillary flowers. Getting ready to bear some seed, I reckon. Anyways, let's continue on. There was, oh God, where is it? I'm trying to find it, but there's a wall of invasive honeysuckle right there. Let's just keep on moving through here and seeing what else we can find. Look at all the seed coming out of this Scirpus Satorianus. It's a shame that I'm dropping it on the ground here where it won't be appreciated by, like, anything. But hopefully, you know, I can do some work to actually make sure that this gets adequately protected. Not quite sure if that's going to go to fruition, but we'll find out. By the way, here's another Scirpus. They call this the wool grass, which really pisses me off because, again, Scirpuses are sedges, not grasses at all. But that's Scirpus cyperinus, yet another example of some wetland flora. So, I'm sure I've pounded this in enough already, but I'm going to continue to because it's the thesis of this video. As you can see, this was formerly a wetland. We've got another species of Junkus right here, and I'm really weak on my Juncaceae, so I can't say for certain which one this is. If I had to guess, I'd say it's Junkus torii. I think that's what I would guess, but I'm an amateur when it comes to the Juncaceae, so I really can't ID it for certain. But anyway, that's another plant that you get in the wetlands. Rushes, sedges. Rushes and sedges are big in the wetlands. They're huge. They're kind of the backbone of that ecosystem. And so, you know, they're what's holding on. But what else do we got here? We've got a bunch of junk on the ground, like this guy. This is the ground ivy, the creeping Charlie, Glaucoma hederaceae. I think that's in the mint family. Let's continue moving right along. Oh, here's a great plant. Say goodbye to this one. Anyways, what we got right here, I'll show you what it looks like in full flower in a second, maybe, if I can find one still in bloom. But this is Rudbeckia Sineda. You commonly find this guy in the floodplain forests. Again, a plant indicating that this area has kind of a wetter hydrologic regime, so you know you're going to have vegetation that favors that in abundance. Like, again, like the Solidago gigantea. But look at these leaves. This is where it gets the name Sineda from, because look at how deeply lobed those are. Isn't that wonderful? It's absolutely beautiful. And it's a shame that this ecosystem has completely gone up in flames, as it were, because, you know, this would be a wonderful refuge for wildlife and for all sorts of different critters to kind of hang out in. Wetlands are highly ecologically productive, and they're also highly productive in the form of carbon sequestration. Not quite sure why I'd bring that up in an era where, you know, we're releasing tons of CO2 into the atmosphere. Might be good to store some of that, but, you know, what do I know? I'm just an idiot out here. Anyways, this is going to be full of passive aggression and regular aggression, I think, this video, because I've just had it up to here with the way things are going in this world. And this right here, this is what Rudbeckia Sineda looks like in full flower. Not full flower, because as you can see, it's dropped some of the ray florets, but, you know, gives you a better idea of what this plant looks like. Again, remember the laciniate leaves? Ha! Love that. Love it when the names make sense. But there was a grass right here, which absolutely blew me away that I'm seeing this shit. Do you know what this is? Does anyone give a fuck? Hopefully. This is Glyceria striata, the foul managrass. I see this in high-quality wetland systems. And it's out here in this old field that's just getting shredded. Oh my God. This is an unmitigated tragedy. And I say unmitigated because it's probably going to go unmitigated because I don't have, like, any faith in the delineation process anymore. Isn't this awesome? But let's talk about some more invasive junk. That'll take my mind off of how terrible everything is, probably. This right here, this is Fragmites Australis. You see this growing on the roadsides a lot because the government introduced it as erosion control, I believe, originally. Same reason we got the reed canary grass, actually. But yeah, so that's Phalaris arundinacea in the grass family. An interesting note, sorry, this isn't Phalaris arundinacea. This is Fragmites Australis. An interesting note about Fragmites Australis is that there's actually a native subspecies of it. Fragmites Australis subspecies americanus, which you know, you can distinguish that because Fragmites Australis americanus, it gets these red nodes, which you can quite clearly see. This guy doesn't have any red in the nodes. It's just invasive junk, unfortunately. But I wanted to point at this plant too. This right here is Helenium autumnal, the sneeze weed they call it. I like this plant a lot because I think its flowers look like shuttlecocks, which is just a very fun word to say. I think this plant is actually pretty closely related to the Verbacenas because if you look closely at the stem here, you note that it's winged quite heavily, just like you get in the Verbecinnas. So I think those two lineages of asters are pretty tight, you know? Pretty tight in the familial relations. Oh yeah. Anyway, look at all the solidagos. Isn't that nice? Oh God, I wish someone would appreciate this because it's all going up. It's all going up. What do we got right here? But another good old-fashioned sedge. I reckon this is, I'm gonna call this Christatella, I think. Given these heavily globose spikelets. Globose just means shaped like a globe, or spherical rather. But that's a great sedge. Again, more Glyceria striata. Oh God, this just pisses me off. I shouldn't have made this video. This was a mistake, but someone's got to report on this because, well, it's just a goddamn shame, you know? Anyways, let's continue on. Maybe let's find some more wetland veg, because that's not going to be hard, given that this used to be a wetland. Oh, here's a plant that kind of favors disturbance. Another sedge. Another Carys, rather. Oh, by the way, the section on Carys Christatella, that's in the Cyperoideae section, formerly the Ovales. This guy right here, I forget which section it is, but I know this is Carys vulpanoidia, the fox sedge. Beautiful. And it's the time of year for seed collection, folks. So if you've got native plants by your house and they're just going to go to seed normally, make sure you harvest at a nice 50% rate, you know, to leave some for the population to replenish itself. But maybe nick a couple seeds and start growing some of this shit in your own home garden. Because, you know, wild areas are becoming increasingly fragile. Becoming increasingly fragmented, so it'd be good to bring some of that into your landscaping in favor of invasive junk. Anyways, let's keep moving on. Oh yeah, if we just keep moving on, it won't be as bad. And this right here is just a hallmark of a classic degraded wetland. It's the invasion of Typha, probably Typhax glauca, if I had to guess. Leaves don't quite look narrow enough for this to be Typha angustifolia. Anyway, that's invasive junk too. We used to have a native cattail, but it's been completely extirpated throughout its range as a result of hybridization. The hybridization that happened once I think it's Typha angustifolia got brought over. Once that happened, the native and the newly introduced species hybridized to produce Typhax glauca, and then Typhax glauca just colonized like wildfire, absolutely taking over wetland systems. Highly aggressive plant. Here's another sedge. Just more indications that this is a wetland complex that we're working with. This is Carrus lupulina, the voluptuous sedge, my friend calls this one. It's an absolutely beautiful species. You know, it's got these massively inflated perigynia. I can get some of those in my hand. These massively inflated perigynia. And the inflation of the perigynia is very important for the seed dispersal because it allows the sedge to kind of float around in the wetland complexes, find a new home, and then bear more younglings. But you know, in a system like this, I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon. Ah, heavens. There was Symphyotrichum lanceolatum, I swore, which is a hallmark of like a wet prairie or a wet meadow ecosystem. I'm not sure what kind of wetland complex this was. If I had to guess, I would go with wet meadow, but yeah, it's just it's not that anymore, quite clearly, which is tragic because these are important systems, like I've hammered home, I'm sure, numerous times in these videos. I love wetlands. They're my bread and butter, you know? These are ecosystems that are just chock full of wonderful creatures, wonderful plants. Everything about them is wonderful, and we view them as just junk, which is, you know, it's disgusting. It's absolutely horrendous. But anyways, let's see what else I can find that's wetland veg. Look at this tiny little guy just barely hanging on here. This is Penthorum sedoides, the ditch stone crop. You see this one in wetlands a lot as well. This one's getting ready to go to seed right now, actually, which is both good and bad. You know, good because it managed to successfully reproduce, but bad because this land looks like it's slated for the chopping block. Again, really hammering home the bleakness in this video, which is kind of unfortunate. Bunch more Carrus lupulina right there. Bunch more Scirpus cyperinus right there. Bunch more friggin' Rudbecula Sineda. This is quite clearly a wetland complex, and I Oh man, it absolutely boils my blood to see a system go to absolute shit like this, because it speaks to what we really care about. We don't give a fuck about the land here in Tree City, USA. We just care about development. And God, just the hypocrisy, man. Oh, geez Louise. We got another sedge for you, folks. This right here is Carrus frankii in the sclerose. Now this one's a bit more disturbance prone. This guy kind of likes the disturbance, but you also typically find this one in like a floodplain forest. So what I would have to guess is like, oh man, how do I even want to? My ecological literacy isn't good enough to really know what this system originally was. I would have to. I just don't know. I'm not a good enough ecologist at this level, unfortunately, to adequately describe what this was. Clearly, it was some kind of wetland, but what? I mean, you know, that's kind of vague, really, all things considered. There's a bunch of different subcategories of wetland, and I can't exactly tell which one this was. But you know, it's definitely a wetland, which means there better be a goddamn mitigation project going on. But I mean, even if this land doesn't get developed, it's still fucked, because I mean, there's invasives out the ass out here, and no one's gonna come and treat these. I mean, like, except for me, but I can't come out here and hand pull all the goddamn reed and frag and Cirsium arvensi. You know, it's sad, dude. It's just really sad, and it makes me so angry. Oh God, it's just hopeless. But you know, at the end of the day, you just gotta have faith, I guess. But that's really hard when recent events have kind of turned my stomach to this whole mitigation stuff. Ah, geez. This video is bleaker than I wanted it to be, and I'm really sorry for that. Yeah, I'm sorry, folks. This isn't a happy one. So I think I'm going to wrap this video up here, because if I stay out here any longer, I'm just going to start vomiting at random in this field, given the condition of the ecosystem here. I was going to show you guys some disturbance plants, but you can look those up on your own. Some of the plants that favor a more disturbed habitat that I was noting out here, you've got your grease grass, Tridens flavus, which is an awesome grass. I absolutely love it. You got your grease grass, there was Asclepias syriaca, there's an abundance of Erigeron annuus, or at least I think it's Erigeron annuus. I'm not too good with my Erigerons either. I've got a lot to learn, but you know, the key takeaway here is to learn about the land so that you don't accidentally destroy it, you know? Because I mean, as a result of development, that's what brings the invasives in. The invasives love disturbance, and as a result, they can just kind of pile into an ecosystem that's been disturbed, and then they take over and reduce everything to a useless monoculture that's of no value to any sort of no ecological value at all, you know, and that's just it just can't be allowed to happen, because I mean, things need these ecosystems. Things live here. This is home for just a vast community of different invertebrates, of birds, of mammals, of reptiles, of all kinds of different organisms call wetlands home. And you know, and so I hope you can kind of understand why I'm just absolutely furious at the moment, and why I'm cutting this off right now before I say something I regret, or say something really stupid, or just start screaming and vomiting out here, because this is just gross, dude, and it can't be allowed to continue in any regard. This is just, but I mean, this is the Anthropocene that we're in, so I guess I better get used to this, because I mean, given the way things are, I don't know what's gonna change people's minds about this, but this is just sad, dude. It's just really sad.